Hello artists, and welcome back to Art with Mrs. Kellogg. For today's lesson, we are creating skulls. And we're creating skulls in honor of Dios de Los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's a holiday that's celebrated on November 1st. It originated, which means started, in Mexico and is celebrated throughout the world. It's a time where family and friends get together and honor the people who have passed away in their lives. And they do this by creating colorful altars and decorating skulls. And we are going to create some skulls and decorate them for this wonderful holiday, Day of the Dead. Now, meet me over at my workspace because I'm going to talk a little bit more about the lesson and the art supplies you will need. This is an example of the sugar skull we're going to create today, in honor of Dios de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, which happens on November 1st. There's a few things you want to get ready and organized. Number one is you want to make sure you have your art mat down or a paper towel. You want to make sure that you have the skull template printed out. You want to have a pencil with an eraser, a black Sharpie marker, and you can use crayons or colored pencils for this project. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, get all of your supplies organized and ready, and then meet me back here and we are going to have some fun creating sugar skulls. Did you get your supplies and workspace all set up? Great, then let's get started. So we are going to start with our pencil. That's our art tool that we're going to use, and we are going to use the two elements of art, line and shape, mostly shape. We're going to start with the nose. I'm going to draw an upside down heart for my skull. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you want to make an oval or a rounded rectangle or square, that's up to you. But I'm going to show you how to place the nose first, then we'll place the eyes, and then we'll place the mouth. After that, we'll create our sugar skull patterns into our skull. The first thing we need to do is place the nose. So here's where that jawline is. So I'm going to go a little bit above that, 2 fingers if you need to measure, and I'm going to put a little light dot. I'm going to erase that later. Then 2 fingers above that, I'm going to place another dot. What I find the easiest thing to do is just draw a really, really, really light line. You probably hardly can see mine. Right down the middle. Because I find it easier to draw a heart when I split it in half and kind of do this tilted upside down J. The other way to do this is we can turn our paper upside down. Now, one thing about triangles, because we notice our heart starts with a triangle at the tip. If I make it really close together, those lines close together, I get a teeny tiny little nose or a heart. So what I want to do is make it wide, where I could probably fit 1 finger in there. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. Curved line. Some of you might remember this from when we created our leaves, upside down heart. If it's easier, turn your paper the opposite way, and it may be easier to draw your heart nose that way. But again, if you have a different idea for a nose, you can draw that in. When I get that all done, I'm going to clean up my drawing. So that means I'm going to erase the line and the dots. Now I'm going to turn it right side up. I like to look at my artwork right side up and upside down. That helps me see the shape better and make any changes I need to any of my shapes. Now I'm ready to place the eyes. And I notice the eyes line up with the outside of my upside down heart. So that's going to help me. I'm going to come up from here, make a little dot. Then I can make my circle from there. I'm going to come up here, make a little dot. Then I can make my circle up there. Now, I want a pretty good size circle because I want to fit some of those fun flower designs or patterns inside the eyes. So what I do is I warm up. Remember how we air draw. I'm thinking circle. And now I'm ready to draw. I just want my circles or ovals to be really big. That's my goal. See how I draw around things if they're a little too small. I have all these extra lines. So see how I leave my lines, I draw around things if they're too small. And then it's time for me to clean up my drawing, which means I'm going to erase any extra lines I don't need. Remember, the shapes that you make are one of a kind, unique to you. So if you have one eye bigger than the other, or anything looks different than my example, don't worry about it. You want to take the idea of using shape in your own way to create the skull face. Now I'm going to start to work on the mouth and the teeth. Before I show you how to use shape to create three-dimensional teeth, I want to show you another option using line and shape. These lines here are for the jawline, and what you can do is just make a curved line going across, and I try to make it, pretty thick, because what I'm going to do is make a mouth like that. So that's a great thing about art. We have many creative choices. And you can shade that later in with your Sharpie marker if you'd like. So you can see you have a few options for the mouth. This is a great guide for me. I'm going to start with the top line. So it's almost like I'm going to put the gum line in. So if you want to just make a big oval and put teeth like so, I'm going to show you that right now. So if you wanted to do something like this and just put lines in across, that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one shape at a time. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Lots of rainbow lines connected. I think it's easiest to start in the middle. Rainbow line, rectangle. Rainbow line, rectangle. Now I'm going to add on, and I'm going to make my teeth smaller as they get further away. So I start up here, draw another. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to continue that to the end. Now I'm going to work on the bottom. Notice the top teeth overlap the bottom. So all I have to do here is almost draw upside down U's. They can touch or not. It's up to you. And I'm going to make those curved lines around the bottom of the mouth. But that is optional, which means you can do it, or if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. Okay, now I'm done, and I'm going to trace all my shapes. And then the next part is I am going to add some fun Mexican folk art sugar skull patterns. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, trace all of your shapes, and then meet me back here, and we're going to start adding some patterns to our sugar skull. Did you finish tracing the eyes, the nose, and the teeth of your skull? Great. Then let's get started. But before we start drawing, I want to show you some examples of sugar skull patterns that you might like to use. Look at all the lines. So you can see a lot of curved lines And then if you look at shapes, there are a lot of heart shapes and a lot of shapes that are combined. It means they put the shapes together. Ovals and triangles. There's lots of circles, half circles, and little dots if you like to use that. So here are some of the examples that you might like to use. I'm going to start with the eyes. So I'm very inspired by the circles and the ovals and the half circles. And marigolds are a big part of sugar skull design. So I am going to think marigolds, and I'm going to think the shapes that I might use to draw a marigold. I like to start in the center first. I'm always thinking big shapes because I'll get a lot of color in them. I don't want to forget the outside of my eye. Rainbow line. I'm going to connect all of those, and I'm going to turn my paper as I work. Now I'm going to look at my designs and make any changes I need to. Now I'm going to add my flower pattern in some other places. There's lots of circles. Remember what we've learned about pattern? We repeat our shapes. If we do something on one side, we want to balance our picture by doing that on the other. So think about that while you're creating your designs. Now I notice lots of ovals with triangles. You can always use just ovals or triangles. Dots and curved lines. Remember, you can also turn your paper upside down and have fun adding some shapes and lines that way. I'm going to continue adding some more patterns to my sugar skull, and then I'm going to trace all of my lines and shapes. Then I'm going to add some color. Now it's your turn. Draw all your lines and shapes for your sugar skull pattern. Then, after you're done with that, you're going to trace everything with a black Sharpie marker, and then we'll start to add some color. So now would be a great time for you to pause the video, then meet me back here, and we're going to have fun adding color to our sugar skull patterns. Did you trace all your sugar skull patterns? And if you like, you could use the marker to color in some sections of your design. But remember, when we color, or artists use the word shade, we do little sections at a time and take our time. We color like artists. We don't race. That's a really important thing to remember. Okay, now it's time for color, and I'm going to think in pattern. So I want to think of repeating my colors, and I also want to think of that light dark pattern so my shapes don't disappear. So notice I use yellow and orange as part of my color pattern, light and dark, light green, dark green, and light blue, and a darker purple. Remember, the light dark color pattern is really important so my shapes don't disappear and they really stand out. So choose the colors that you like and think of repeating them. And again, think of that light dark color pattern. And I figured that out by putting my colors next to each other. Now I'm going to start coloring, and you're going to notice that when I color, or as artists say, shade, I take my time, I relax, I calm down, and I slow my hand down. And I don't have to press really hard, and I just do little sections at a time. I don't want to color everything orange, so that's where my color pattern is going to really help me. I can use yellow. And if you have a red or a gold and you'd like to use that, you can do that. I'm going to continue to color in my sugar skull. Now it's your turn. Well, that's the end of our art lesson, creating sugar skulls for the holiday Dios de los Muertos, which is on November 1st. So now you'll have your sugar skulls all ready to display for November 1st. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I want you to always remember, when you are creating art, to relax, have lots of fun, and keep creating.